According to the Las Vegas Sportsbook, the Mountain West in the 2025 college football season remains a bit of a mystery. I want to go over all the games this weekend, kind of see, is the Mountain West being disrespected? What's going on in Boise? What's going on in Vegas? Fort Collins? Hawaii? Let's talk. This is the Let's Run podcast. Folks, welcome to the show today. Grateful to have you. Grateful to have you on the Let's Run podcast. Really interesting times as we have a couple of teams coming off of bye weeks. Boise State is coming off of a bye week. UNLV is coming off of a bye week. We had that great game between Utah State and Air Force, which, I think Air Force last weekend in Logan, I think Air Force is a little bit worse than I thought. I think Utah State's a bit better than I thought. But please, while you are here on this glorious Friday, like this video, subscribe to the Let's Run podcast. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just out of, I wrote an article about family and about, about approaching fatherhood. I have a kid due in a few short weeks, in reflection of all the political violence that's been going on lately on my Substack. If you're interested in that sort of thing, please check it out. It's not political, but I would appreciate it if you guys wanted to see that, put some work into it. And I hope that it's introspective. And I know a lot of people are going through tough times, and I hope you guys are doing great. So let's talk about this week slate of games. So the first game that we're going to talk about is a big one, is UNLV. UNLV is going on the road to Miami, Ohio. Now, Miami has historically been one of the better G5 programs. They have their coach that's been there for a while. UNLV opened up as a 3.5-point favorite in this game. The line was bet down quickly to 2.5. And I think that there's a healthy skepticism, a very healthy skepticism, one that's shared by me and a lot of Rebel fans. How good is this UNLV team? I don't think we know. I don't think we really know. There's a lot of question marks about this defense, about the offensive consistency. I think everybody would agree, and it's pretty consensus that Anthony Colandrea is probably the best quarterback in the Mountain West, although you can make an argument for a guy like Bryson Barnes and Logan. This UNLV offense looks good, but the defense has a lot of question marks. And really the biggest thing about the Rebels is they just haven't played a complete game. They've had a good quarter and a half. They played, a good 22 minutes or so versus UCLA. They played a very good 2 quarters versus Sam Houston. They played a very bad game versus Idaho State. There's just a lot of mystery around this UNLV team. Anthony Colandrea looks great. Like I said, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year. Jet Thomas is an awesome running back. Jaden Bradley, there's weapons on the outside. I'd love to see a guy like Troy Omier get in a little bit more. I'd love to see the tight ends continue to develop and continue to be used more in this offense. But it's really the defense. Amaris Brown, Jake Pope, Marcel McDuffie. There's a lot of guys on this UNLV defense that I just want to see more from. UNLV will be without Justin Flo in the first half of this game, as he was ejected for targeting in the last game against UCLA. And what I want to see is the Rebels play a game that is clean. There's going to be some penalties, of course. That happens. The Rebels aren't going to play perfectly. I'm sure that Miami of Ohio is going to get some scores. There's going to be some breakdowns. The spread is at 50.5. I think this game could have more scoring than that. But what you have to understand is this Miami team is going to try and slow the game down, break down the number of possessions that the UNLV offense is on the field. And I think the UNLV offense has to be cognizant of how they do their play calling. The UNLV defense is not good at getting teams off the field. They're not good at forcing punts. And so when we're on offense, we're going to have to get first downs. That's the goal. I mean, I understand taking deep shots downfield. I understand, whatever plays you're going to call, we got to get first downs. We don't have to have the 45-yard pass plays. We just have to control the pace of the game. I'd love to see us win the time of possession. Not that time of possession is, purely indicative of how good your team is doing, but I'd love to see UNLV control the game a bit more. I'd love to see Jet Thomas get more carries. Please. He's only averaging 11 carries on the season. Give this guy 20 carries. Let him see if he can do it. He's coming off of a bye week. This is, UNLV, the opportunity to go 4-0 in the non-conference it's a great opportunity. And if UNLV can do that, they will have most certainly proven me wrong. I think that my 8-4 prediction for this UNLV football team, I think I'd have to switch that up. I think 9-3, even a 10-2 is on the table at that point. Having gotten through this tricky game, Miami of Ohio, having beaten a worse than expected UCLA team, having won on the road at Sam Houston, I think that if UNLV can come out of this non-conference undefeated, the expectations for the season, in my view, in my eyes, kind of rise. Daquan Finn, he's a good quarterback for, I have his name right, Daquan, yes. Daquan Finn, he's a very good quarterback from Miami of Ohio. 334 yards passing on the season. Not super impressive stats. 98 yards rushing. He's got good legs too. He's a very talented player. And I want to see the Rebels try and contain him. You know, this Miami offense has not been explosive, but they have been playing power conference opponents. And so I think the Rebels are going to win this one. I'd give them about a 10-point win. I think that that's reasonable. I just don't think the Miami offense is going to be able to keep up with the Rebel offense. But if the Rebels are turning the ball over and if their defense isn't playing, you know, with purpose, instead of sitting back and kind of drop 8 schemes, and instead of, you know, keeping the ball in front of them. And, you know, I think the Rebels have to be a little more aggressive against this Miami offense. Because, you know, if Miami scores, it's not like their offense is crazy explosive anyway. You can take a couple of risks, bring a blitz. Don't, you know, get up 14-0 and then park the bus and just try and keep Miami out of the end zone. Be aggressive until the game is absolutely over, until you're up 48-0 or something. I want to see the UNLV defense, and I'm not saying UNLV is going to be up 48-0. I want to see the UNLV defense pressing and going hard from the beginning to the end. I want to see Paul Gunther get off his butt and be a little bit more aggressive with his play calling on the defense. Be a little more aggressive with your coverages. Call blitzes more often. I think that that's just a good idea. And I think that the Rebels need to do it. And I think the offense needs the defense to be a little bit more assertive. So I've got UNLV winning this one by about 10, by covering the spread, obviously. But crossing the country, 2 time zones, 9 a.m. body time for these guys. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to be ready for this one, but the Rebels can absolutely do it, and I think that they will. So game 2 that we'll talk about is Idaho, San Jose State. Idaho, obviously, in that week 1 game against Washington State, very nearly took down Washington State. I think that was a little bit more impressive at the time, especially considering how Washington State played against North Texas in Denton. I think San Jose State's going to get their first win. They're favored by about 14 that I've seen in some lines. I think that'll be a close game, maybe a field goal or a touchdown game. But San Jose State, I think Ken is such a good coach there, and I think he'll finally get his guys playing a little bit better. I think you'll see Eget playing a bit better with his receivers. He can still throw the ball, he can still fling it downfield, but he's got to have a better connection with his guys. And he's got to be a little bit more accurate. So I think San Jose State's going to win that one. We have Reno at Western Kentucky. I would expect Reno to be playing a little hurt after that humiliating Middle Tennessee defeat in Mackey Stadium in Reno. Western Kentucky is a very solid Group of 5 program, a very good, maybe the class of Conference USA alongside a school like Liberty. I would expect Reno to cover this. I think that there's a lot of thought that Reno's going to kind of bow out and kind of lay down. And Choate, while I don't think he's a good coach, he is kind of a rah-rah guy, and I think he'll have his team realizing that their backs are up against the wall. I mean, there's not a lot of wins left on the schedule if they don't get this one. And Western Kentucky is a better team than they are. I don't think Reno's going to win this game, but I would say Western Kentucky by a touchdown, maybe a field goal. I think Reno's going to fight really hard on this one. Going to come back to Boise State Air Force for the last game that we'll cover. McNeese, Utah State should have no problem with McNeese. Just credit to Bronco Mendenhall. He's doing such a good job in Logan. Really respect him. I think, my hot take is I think Utah State's going to win more Pac-12 championships than any other school from 2026 to 2031. That's my prediction. I don't think Bronco's going anywhere, and I think he's going to win Pac-12 championships. And frankly, I just couldn't believe in Bronco anymore as a head coach. And so I expect Logan to be a happen-in college football place over the next 6 years. This game, UTSA at Colorado State, is very interesting. The line is UTSA 4.5. Ultimately, Colorado State is a team that should have lost to Northern Colorado. This is kind of put up or shut up time for Braden Fowler Nicolosi, the quarterback there that undoubtedly has a lot of talent. But outside of that outstanding Colorado game 2 years ago, just has never quite lived up to that potential. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Got to be honest with you. I think that Colorado State covers. I would pick UTSA to win this game, but honestly, if I'm not giving betting advice or anything here. I'm not a gambler. I've never gambled on sports before in my life. I wouldn't be good at it if I did. But I think this is a stay away, man. I don't think you go anywhere near this game. Colorado State, UTSA. I watched their game against Texas State. That was at the Alamo Dome. Wasn't super impressed with UTSA's defense, so this could be a high scoring one. But I don't know. I'll pick UTSA to win by a field goal because I think Fowler Nicolosi just doesn't quite have it. And Jay Norvell needs to be fired in Fort Collins absolutely right away. I don't think he's good enough to run that program for a fan base and a city that really seems to support its program. Colorado State just does not get enough results on the field, and Jay Norvell needs to go. And so then we go to Wyoming, Colorado. A lot of people think that, Wyoming's kind of stingy defense is going to keep them in this game. I think this is where Colorado kind of takes off. They're not going to have, their team just doesn't quite have it this year, this Colorado Buffalo's team. And this Wyoming offense, I think, is so putrid. And even though they have a lot of talent, not a lot of talent, but they have some talent. I think that Colorado, this is kind of my hot take. I think Colorado really runs away, wins this by 3 or 4 scores, covers easily. This Wyoming program, I was really low on them coming into the season. Losing to Utah is no shame. I mean, Utah's a very good team, but I guess my intuition about being down on Wyoming, I can't quite escape it. And so I think Colorado kind of crushes Wyoming. Likewise with Cal and San Diego State. Sean Lewis, to me, just is not the guy, man. Despite a pretty impressive week 1 performance, although, albeit against a FCS team, San Diego State just can't score. That program just does not seem to have any juice. I think if I was a San Diego State fan, I would want whatever gets Sean Lewis gone as quickly as possible, because, in this era, you can be good a year after being terrible. And San Diego State is too good of a city to have, and in too good of a stadium, frankly, to have these results. Cal, they got a really fun quarterback. I don't know how to say his name. It's kind of a fun name. He's a Polynesian guy. Sagapolutele, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. I only watched Cal in that opening game against Oregon State, where Cal looked awesome. Cal looked great in that game against Minnesota too. So I would expect Cal to really crush San Diego State in this one and cover the spread easily. This Fresno State-Hawaii game, incredibly interesting. Going to the islands is always tough. EJ Warner has not been quite as, I think Fresno State's outstanding rushing attack has at times masked EJ Warner because his stats are not very good on the season. 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, some of that is because he had a rough game against Kansas. But ultimately, I think Fresno wins this one. I like Fresno's rushing attack. I'm a little more down, kind of like on Hawaii, like I am with Wyoming. And so ultimately, I do feel like Fresno will win this one in a squeaker. But just like that UTSA Colorado State game, I would not go anywhere near this one. I have no idea. I lean towards Fresno winning because I like that rushing attack, and I don't think Hawaii is quite as good as people think they are. But Mike Alejado is coming back, and he seems to be an outstanding quarterback. And so a very good quarterback. I shouldn't say outstanding, but a very good quarterback. So I guess we'll see. I would pick Fresno in that game. And then Boise State Air Force. Boise State, the line opened up at 8.5, and now it's all the way up to 11.5. I think the Air Force might be able to cover in this game. A 10-point win for Boise doesn't seem out of the question. Air Force tends to shorten the games with long drives, playing that triple option. And they do get shots down the field too. And Boise State's secondary is very weak. And I think Boise State's defense has some holes despite having a very good defensive line. And so very interested to see this one. If Boise State loses this game, the conference is in complete chaos, in my opinion. There's a number of teams that could win it. Air Force already has a conference loss. Boise State having a conference loss early in the season would be rough. It just seems like a mystery to me. I'm going to pick Boise State to win. There's a chance that Air Force covers in this game, but I just don't think that Air Force defense, what I saw against Utah State, is quite up to snuff. And Air Force just seems a little too young. And maybe Calhoun is just going to take a couple of years for him to figure out how to build in this NIL era and this transfer portal era and the special challenges that a school like Air Force has, even apart from the other military academies off on its own in the West Coast. Boise State, a lot of questions about them. And really, that's kind of where I wanted to close this episode. Is it seems like the Mountain West, Vegas doesn't know what to do with us. Vegas doesn't know how good this conference is. I think they know that the American's better, at least in their eyes. And I think that that's a fair assumption based on the results on the field. But you look at the Mountain West and you look at the schools and the teams, and that USF game looked really rough. UNLV doesn't look like world beaters so far this season. San Jose State, who was supposed to be a conference contender, 0-2. The only school that's doing better than I think we thought that they would be doing is Utah State. And even Utah State, I'd love to see them get a good win. And, they're not really going to get a chance to do so in the non-conference. That win against Air Force was certainly solid. And that win against UTEP, I think, will age fine as well. But it's kind of a mystery. And Vegas doesn't know what to do. And I don't feel like I have a good handle on the Mountain West so far. So I guess we're going to see. This is going to be a very fun week. I'm looking forward to breaking it all down for you. I will be live before the UNLV game and a post-game show. And so please, guys, like this video. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think I'm a little off on any of these picks? And do you think that it's fair to be so skeptical of the Mountain West like the Las Vegas sports books seem to be? I think it is. I think that we do not know how good this conference is yet, at least this season. And I was hoping for a bit better in the Mountain West Swan Song, but we will see. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Please like, please subscribe, and let's run.